Alright, in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to set up your graphic novel or comic book for your final Photopea assignment. So on our Canvas page you'll see on day 9 that there's a access link for graphic novel files. So if you click that, I have a bunch of character sheets that you can cut out. And there's also a folder here with past student examples if you want to take a look at some random examples. But in here, you'll notice that there are lots and lots of little sheets that have a variety of poses for different characters. So for example, like if I wanted to have a main character, this little crocodile guy, you can see I've got all these different poses and different emotions and things like that. There's a lot of different styles. There's like more cartoony, there's Avengers, stuff like this is really good because it has lots of little characters to choose from. I think these are from Ben 10, but lots of stuff to choose and cut out from. So if you decide that you want to use one of these, you can go ahead and right click and download it. So when you download it to your computer, now we can have that ready for Photopea. And you can also get stuff from Google and whatever else you might want as well. This might also be a good one to download while we're at it, the speech bubble, because we'll end up probably using these a little bit. So when you've kind of thought about that a little bit, we're going to go to photopea.com. So we've been there before, we've done some other projects here. We're going to do a new project. Now, before we hit create or anything, we need to set up our project size. First of all, I'll give it a name. I'll just call it comic or something. And then up here where it says width and height, we want to change, instead of where it says px or pixels, I want you to change this little pull down to inches. And then I think that we're going to make a either 30-inch wide or 30-inch tall comic strip. That way we have a lot of room to work with for a bunch of different scenes. So if you want yours to be longer, you can make the width 30, or if you want yours to be taller, then you can do the height for 30. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do mine taller. So I'm going to do my width at like 8 inches and my height at about 30. Okay, so width 8, height 30. Again, if you want to make it longer, you can do width 30 and height 8. But for me, I'm going to do it like this. So when I hit create, you'll see that I get this big template, right? So what I want to do first is I'm going to actually right click my background layer over here. And what I want to do is I want to duplicate this layer. That way I have another white like background here. So that way if I end up having to erase something, I'm not like cutting into the background. So this is just a little tip I would give you. Not super necessary, but I would recommend it. So I'm just making another background copy of my just plain white background. First thing I probably want to do is I'm going to hit B, as in the brush tool. Again, it's this little tool right here. So I probably want to start with some lines on my my comic. But, you know, if I just try to draw, it's kind of hard to get, you know, a straight line. So I'm going to undo that. My tip would be if you click your mouse to start drawing, if you then hold your shift key on your keyboard, you'll notice that even though I'm moving my mouse around, holding shift keeps it along that straight line. So then if I go down here, and again, I click one more time, I click again, and then I click my shift key down, and drag it across. Be careful not to hold shift in between when I'm drawing, because if I keep holding shift and I try to like draw another line, you'll see that it like draws like a connecting diagonal, which I don't really want. So again, I click my mouse to start, then I click and hold my shift button, and then I draw across. So again, click, shift, drag, click, shift, drag. So I'm just setting up some comic frame boxes here. You can do whatever you want. Again, if you want to have a diagonal, what you can do is like click once. I'm not holding my mouse button. If I hold my shift key and then click a second time, it basically connects the dots. So that's kind of a cool little trick if you want to have a diagonal. And then I'm going to do probably one down the middle here too. I'm going to keep my top one big so I can have like a title screen, but that's up to you. So I'll do one more line, maybe down like this or something. That way I have a nice comic frame going on here and a little bit of a difference here for like a dramatic scene at the end or something. So at least make sure you've got about 8 or so boxes. I would say 8 is the requirement for this project for your story. But I give myself, I think, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I guess 11. That's fine. So with our frame about ready, what we're going to do, and I've already downloaded a couple of these pictures just to work with. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go to File, And instead of doing open in place like we've done in the past, I want to just do file open. So when I do that, I can open up and go to my downloads and find wherever I saved that file. So I think I saved one a couple days ago. I saved that Sonic file. Notice when you just do file open, it opened it in another tab up here. That way I'm not having like 100 Sonics all over my comic. I can just move stuff over when I'm ready for it. So let's say I want to grab a couple pictures of Sonic. So I'm gonna zoom in with my Z key, use my H for hand and like scroll around a little bit. So let's say I want to start with, this one is just him kind of giving a little pointer finger. So I'm going to take this. Here's what I want to do. I'm going to use my lasso tool. There's a couple ways you could do this, and we've done varieties of this in the past, but I'm just going to use my lasso, and I'm just going to carefully kind of go around him. Notice I'm not being super careful around the outskirts. You'll notice with this little checkerboard background, this is already set to transparent, so I don't have to worry about this extra stuff, but I'll show you how to get rid of that later if you need to. So I just kind of selected my Sonic. Now what I'm going to do is Control C for copy. So I just copied it. For some reason, some people online, if your Control C doesn't work, you might also be able to do Edit and just hit copy. So if you're noticing that you can't copy paste, you can always try to go to the actual Edit menu and hit copy. So once I've copied this, I'm going to go back to my comic, and I'm going to do Control V. You'll notice my picture kind of gets thrown right here in the middle. So if you were like, sometimes people are like so far zoomed up here that when you hit Control V, they're like, where'd it go? Well, sometimes I have to like zoom out and notice, oh, there it is. All right. So when you bring it in, if you use your arrow tool, you should be able to move it around. Remember, if you don't get these options for resizing things when you're on your arrow, make sure this Transform Controls button is on. So now, I'll zoom in a little bit. I should be able to move my character into place. I can shrink it down or do whatever I need to do. I can maybe rotate it if I want. So you can kind of get your characters into the frame, right? So once I've got that, let's say I want a background picture. So again, I just go to Google. I type in whatever you want. I'll do like an ocean background this time. For some reason, Sonic's going to be at the beach, I guess. So I'll just grab whatever. I'll just grab this. Just as an example, right? So I'm going to save a picture to my computer. I'll just save it to my desktop. You might want to make a folder that you can just organize all your pictures in. If that might be a smart idea. But once I've saved that picture, now I'll go to File, Open in Place, because I want to place this picture right in my existing document. So I'll do Open in Place. I guess I saved it to my desktop, so I'll go find it there. So I can pick this picture, hit Open. Notice it comes in, and you're going to have to resize it and rescale it. Remember, I'm just going to like scale it in, fit the frame. Remember, Photoshop is a program about layers, right? So my layers over here are starting to get a little messy, right? My Sonic has to be above my background layer, right? I showed you also the text bubble thing. This would probably be a good one to download. So that way you can have a little text. So maybe I'll do File, Open. I'll go find that text option that I downloaded. Speech bubbles, I think is what it's called. So now I've got this. Same kind of concept. Now, if I lasso one of these out, for example, if I lasso this, and again, Control C for copy, I go back to my comic, Control V for paste, there it is. I got to scroll around a little bit. Now, notice the problem with this one is when I copied that, I got this extra white space around it. So remember, if you don't want that, there is this tool over here. So if I click down on it, there's these like sub versions of the tool. I like the magic wand for this. So if you have like extra white space around something or whatever color it is, you can use the magic wand. Make sure you're on that layer, because if you're not, then it's not going to select it. So if I select that little white extra stuff around it, if I hit delete, I should be able to just get rid of that. Okay. Sometimes if it says you have to rasterize the layer first, you have to like right click and hit rasterize. So if it says that, you can right click it. Another big tip is after you cut something or you have something selected, if you're like done with it, but you still have stuff selected on here, really big tip is Control D. That just deselects everything on your screen, kind of resets so you're not getting stuck on something. So then you can like resize this maybe. I might use my text tool over here, for example. remember you have options up here. So if I click into my little text box and I want to start typing something, sometimes it takes a second to load for some reason. But you can see, like, you can start typing stuff in. And again, if that's too small or too big, I can highlight it. I can change my font. So if you're trying to like fit a bunch of stuff in there, you might have to do that. I'm Sonic, sure, whatever. So now you can see if I hit Z for zoom, and sometimes I hit this fit the area to kind of reset my view. But now we're starting to get somewhere, right? One suggestion that I might give you is notice how like I've got a bunch of layers now. I got a Sonic layer, I got a text box layer, I got a text bubble layer, I got a background layer. So if I think I'm done with one of these frames, I don't want to have 5 layers floating around as I start to get into more and more frames. Remember that you can shift click a bunch of layers to select them. So if I hold shift, I can click multiple pieces, say now I've grabbed all that. And if I'm done editing this, like I don't need to make any more adjustments to this stuff, I can right click and say, move my little webcam here. I can right click and say merge layers. That way, all of this now is just one layer. Be careful though, because now if I'm doing that, I can't go back and edit individual pieces. So just make sure you are sure before you do that. So at that point, I'm done with one frame. You just need to think of a storyline that you can make within a couple frames. It doesn't need to be something amazing, right? Just a simple story is fine. But try to fill up a little comic book worth of story and have a little bit of fun with it. One other thing I wanted to show you real quick for like a title screen that people like to do is if you go to the website dafont.com, DAFONT.com. This is a font website. So normally like I could download fonts and install them, but on your school computers we can't really do that. So if I find one, and there's a bunch of categories up here. So like if I find one that looks like it could fit my comic, like this one looks kind of cool. So if I click this and do Sonic Adventure or whatever I want my title to be. So if I do this, and I can maybe do like a large preview. So if I do a preview and hit submit, you can see I get like what my text is in this sample. So I'm going to use my snipping tool. I'm going to cut this out. So when you cut something on the snipping tool, it automatically copies it for you. So if I go back over here and do Control V to paste, you can see I bring it in and I can resize it. Remember, it's going to come in with this white background behind it. But remember, the Magic Wand tool is really good. I can just click that white, hit delete, and I might have to clean up the little white inside of things. But that looks pretty good. And remember, when you're done, Control D to deselect everything. Then I can go back and use my arrow tool to move it back wherever I want to put it. Okay? So please remember that there are a lot of tutorials that are available back on Canvas. So like all these things we've talked about in the past, there's also these previous Marvel tutorials. So if you want to make, specific cuts, or if you want to do like color correction, all those things that we've practiced so far, you can still do. So remember, like if you want to like change the color of Sonic, for instance, there's options up here under image adjustments. There's a lot that you can play with, but like if I wanted to change the blue, for instance, I might go to this hue and saturation option, and I can do stuff like this where I can say, I want to select the blue color, but I want to change the hue. See how I'm like just changing that blue to a different color, and I can like saturate it or desaturate it. So there's a lot you can do. Like I saw someone making a Captain America where they made him like an evil. So they took the blue of his outfit and they made it look into like this kind of gray, black, dark red looking color that made him look evil, for instance. So don't forget that you have all these options that you can adjust your images with to customize your comic, right? So hopefully that gives you enough information that you can create a nice comic book. Don't forget as you work on it, to file, save as a PSD after you're done for the day. That way you can load it. And when you're finalized and you're ready to go and done after a couple days of work, you're going to export it as a PNG. You'll hit save, and then that'll be the final picture file that you can turn in and share. Other than that, hopefully this helped. Make sure you can always re-watch parts of the tutorial and pause and rewind if you need to see something. And that should help out. Good luck and have fun.